hey Harry, we used to, in the old days in the Microsoft Office, they would put an announcement on the PA that Tom and Rick would be coming through the office with the beverage cart at 3 o'clock. And then some joker got drunk at the office and got in a car accident and blamed it on us over-serving him, and then that ended that. Well, we didn't have to involve the lawyers. We just had to. Now anytime there's more than 5 people drinking, there has to be an official bartender at these events. So if you go to a Microsoft, every office all worldwide, man, it's crazy. Yes, exactly. Exactly right. And then they can sue that bartender instead of suing us. So let's get going if you guys are ready to get going. So I'm going to, very briefly, if you've been in my sessions before, I kind of did the little Y cloud, and so I'll skip that very lightly. And know that, again, there's a lot of content. I think like this deck has 96-some slides in it. So no, we're not going to use them all. But they are there for you to use them all. So you used to do this thing at Apple called the Apple Reference and Presentation Library, ARPL. And on there we would just load boatloads of decks. And I remember telling people, if you ever built a presentation and at Apple, you know, you're just stupid because we already had a million slides out there. And some of these that you'll see at the end, I did, honest to God, build these in like 2006, 2007, and I'm still using them today, and they still work just fine. I guess the only thing I've got left tomorrow is this encryption session that I'm filling in for somebody, so I don't know what they were going to talk about. I like to start every presentation with just kind of doing a baseline, and so again, apologize for this being redundant for so many of you in the room, but talking about this whole migration and what's happening as people are moving from physical to virtual, private clouds to public clouds where there's IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS out there. And then what that means, and again, I've used this slide since 07, what that means to people as far as cost and what they manage, what you manage. I've done, and I keep a running ticker in my head, just like I don't know what I actually named this presentation, but I know it's 26.868 megabytes. And I know I've gone through 612 TCO analysis, and I've only had 2 people come back and say those are wrong. We're not going to save more money by moving to the cloud. So just, again, background here, kind of what's the difference between, you know, these things, and then, you know, why move to the cloud, and you'll see these here. But the thing I really focus on with customers is the benefits, and again, having something that's always available. And the thing I just always hit on with people is, you know, what do you do for disaster recovery, high availability today? And earlier today, I hit on the, what's the RPO, what's the RTO? 0, thank God. Somebody was here and remembered. I love you too. So for you to build that out on your own, boatloads of money. What's included in the service? It's kind of funny. I know I had a customer, and they're a large company, about 60,000 employees, and their IT folks were in a meeting last week, and I swear to God, after all these briefings and all this time, they were still saying that Office 365 was just Word, Excel, PowerPoint in the cloud. So I apologized like 1,100 times during that meeting for not doing my job, that after all of that, they could you know, think that it's just, you know, Word online, which it is more than that, right? So it's these things provided highly availably. And you've heard me all talk about the best way to deploy Office. Best way to deploy Office? I love you. So this is good. Deploy faster. And then the deploy faster, one customer I was with, we spent 1.5 years doing application compatibility testing on their older versions of Office, Word, Excel, Access. And I wrote a book, and it didn't start out as a book. It started out as a white paper, but it got to like 300 pages, 286 pages, definitely 286 pages. Charlie Babbitt's an excellent driver. That was all on what we break. So it's like Office 2007, what's broke, how to fix it. And it's 300 pages on what breaks, what will break, and how to fix it. So now you don't have to worry about that. With side by side, I can have Access 97 sitting right next to Access 2013. I can have Word 2013 running right next to Word 2000. I can have PowerPoint 2013 running next to Word 2003, right? So leave that old junk on the machine. If you need it for macros in Excel or whatever, that's fine. The only exception here is what? Outlook. Can't have two versions of Outlook running on any machine. So side-by-side is awesome. We go from the device licensing to a user licensing. I mentioned that over the lunch kind of thing. And you get 5 Macs or PCs, 5 tablets, 5 phones. So that's kind of cool. And then this profile, like if you saw when I opened this deck, it said you were on slide 9 where you last left off. Do you want to go there? A little ribbon pops up, and if you click that, boom, you go right to slide 9, right where you left off. And that's like, I'm working on something, jamming on it at work. Wife calls, says, get your butt home, or you're going to have to give up half of everything that you've made in your whole life. I get home, I open it on the kitchen Mac, and it says where you left off was on page 34. Bam, I'm right back where I left off, right? User profile services. Kind of cool stuff. You can still use LANDesk, Altera, System Center. I'd prefer System Center as a shareholder. That would be fantastic. But you can still use those tools to deploy Office. So I don't know. There was a little confusion of that today. And you can still manage, and you can still build your transforms, and you can leverage the 4,000 plus group policies to deploy your Office, which is all awesome. And that's one of the big 4, right? If you were in another session, I said a couple of things that all customers are going to, and what they're beating the doors down to get to Office 365 is sync and yes. So sync and share, and then I had external SharePoint sites, and then the 4th one was this, how to deploy Office. So moving right ahead, these slides are in your deck. You can study this at home. And I put really good notes in here, too. So there's really awesome notes that I think I was supposed to flesh out. And yes, we've delivered a lot of junk, and it's really good stuff. And we've killed nothing. You've already seen that. And it's very secure, and it's updated. Now, there are a lot of customers, when I walk them through this, they go, well, what the hell? If this is all true and you're not a liar, which, you know, how to tell when a salesman's not lying, right? Their lips aren't moving. Right, exactly. So they go, well, if this is all true, why hasn't everybody moved to the cloud? And my answer to that is, there are some things in life that I just can't explain, like why there would be an escalator in front of 24-hour fitness. So I know I have to explain that. Nobody laughs. It's a picture. It's a visual joke. This is proof that a picture isn't worth 1,000 words, because nobody ever laughs at it. You'll have these slides. You don't have to take a picture unless you want me in it. Photobomb. So I can't explain this. I would think you want to start your workout, or if you get your Fitbit, turn it on here. Walk up these steps, or maybe walk up these steps. By the time you get up here, you'd have your 1,000 steps in, maybe, if you're a slow walker. Yeah, there you go. You wouldn't even have to go there. Just put an escalator in your backyard. They have these machines. I'm not kidding you. So why hasn't everybody gone? Well, in 2007, you know, we had this plethora of compliance capabilities. We had SAS 70 Type 1, and that was it. And we had one of the 7 steps of the EU Safe Harbor, one of 7 steps. In 2010, that improved rather dramatically in Office 365. And then now you can go out to the Trust Center, which URL is. Not at all. TrustOffice365.com. So Trust Office 365, so it's Office 365, and then Trust, because you're going to trust Office 365, and then .com. So Trust. And you, I'm going to ask you tomorrow. You get that wrong tomorrow. That's what, I'm going to be carrying this glass of water around, and you're going to be taking the ice cube challenge without any ice cubes or without any donation to ALS. No, I won't throw any water on you. Maybe I will. All right, so there's all those things now. SharePoint, this customer came to me and said, hey, we can't move to SharePoint 2007 in Business Productivity Online Suite because all of these things. And in 2010, it was just that thing, third-party tools. And in 2013, did that go away? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes, it did. So you can get these applications like Bamboo Solutions Calendar Plus from the SharePoint.com store and instantly add them to any site collection, just like that. Or something like Nintex Workflow or something like K2's Black Pearl. So before you had to go through this arduous install process. Now you go buy this app, add it to this gallery, and bam, it's right there. Kind of cool, very cool. And if you already own that on-premise SharePoint tool, most of them you type in their licensing number, and bam, they're there in the cloud. Cool? All right. Exchange, yeah, in BPAWS, Business Productivity Online Suite, and if this weren't recorded, I would tell you what BPAWS actually does stand for. Those of you chuckling have already figured it out. But there were several features missing from Exchange Online, many features missing from Exchange, 97 features to be exact, and working with those product managers, we got that down to 47, but it still wasn't that great. And then in 2010, we narrowed that to just these 3. And in 2013, the big stickler was public folders, which we said we will never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever support public folders, and then we support public folders. So it's good to be king. So these are, again, looking back, it was kind of funny because when I would talk to the worldwide product managers on Business Productivity Online Suite, I said, you've built this product for 2% of our customers. And that is honest to God. I said that a lot of times. You've built Business Productivity Online Suite for 2% of our customers. Now we've got a product for 98% because we already sold those 2% a big piece of, Business Productivity Online Suite. So, no, that's not true. BPAWS actually was a pretty good thing. Bunch of stuff, marketing, blah, 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 blah. Here's the good stuff. This is what you came for. So every IT project starts with that says current state, except for the template got in the way. Current state and where we want to go, right? Future state. Current state, future state. And then this is what you do, or somebody who works for you did. And these things are things like this, making sure it's a good fit. And again, you can charge for this part. You wouldn't believe the amount of money I charged for that. There was one customer, a 58,000 seat customer. We didn't migrate them. We didn't do anything. I went in and I did a presentation and showed them that, hey, you guys can save some money by going to the cloud. And I put together this white paper and I spent all this time and I built this POC, and the CIO and the CEO both said, that POC, this other work that you did over here, prepping our Active Directory, getting our desktops ready, that isn't worth anything. This paper that you did on our user segmentation and what SKU, but back then we had E4, right? E1, E2, E3, E4, K1 and 2, and then there were some other things that we did. They said this is going to make my career, and for the CIO it did. CEO not so much, but they said we would pay you. You charged us 100 grand for the POC and migration prep. You did it ass backwards. And I mean, I was getting yelled at the time. And I was like, what? And they're like, we will pay you 100 grand for this piece of paper. We know Microsoft can send and receive mail. I mean, they wouldn't introduce a service that doesn't work. So you're doing it backwards. And then from then on, we had a consultancy that just said, we'll assure a fit, prove that there's financial benefits, and then get you ready to go. And we don't care if we do any of this other work. So most people were looking at, this is awesome. This stuff is what we want to do. Not so much. I'm saying that's backwards. So this stuff, the true consultancy is where you can get some good work, and you can still do all this other stuff too. So at this company I was at, every cloud should have a, this is the interactive portion. When I ask a question and pause, that's when you give an answer back. So every cloud should have a silver lining. So I called these things silver lining planning, silver lining identity, and silver lining migration. And it was kind of a cool thing for at least a little while until the guy here at Microsoft, Jeff Medford, said, hey, that's really cool deal. Why don't I call this step 1, step 2, and step 3 and put it in a thing called FastTrack, which was really a good idea for him and made his career, but it didn't help me at all. So then when I show this to customers, customers will go, oh, because maybe they were talking to a Microsoft account executive, and when they say, how long will it take us to get from our on-premise solution to a cloud solution, Microsoft, hem and haw. And maybe somebody's got a bad taste or the worst case scenario in their mouth. This customer called me up, and it's ACT, John Betzer, and John was the CIO. He called me up and said, we need everybody to be off of our on-premise, and it was all IBM. It was WebSphere, Lotus Notes, and Notes apps. I know I'm missing something else, and something else. But it was all IBM. And he said, we need to be off by December 1st, and this was the end of October. And he said, I've got 3 quotes here, and one of them is for about $700,000, and it was from a company. And then one is about $500,000. And I said, well, one was like $772,000, the other one was $568,000. And I said, well, you know, John, why are you moving? And he said, because we have to be off. Our licensing agreement is December 1st. And I said, fantastic, you have to be off December 1st. Why don't you keep the 5 or the 7, and we'll take the $72,000, and we'll have you off in 6 weeks. And he was like, what? Because Microsoft told me it was going to be like $700,000, and it was going to take like a year and a half. And I'm like, that's great, that's good. I'm like, you got to understand that their goal is 110, our goal at Microsoft, MCS. The #1 goal is 100% satisfaction with a customer. No bumps in the road, right? Like, this project is done. It's done on time. It might be over budget, but you're 110% satisfied. That I get a high box CSAT score. That's what MCS's goal is. I said, I am going to make you so angry you're going to want to take a flamethrower to me. There's going to be things that are going to really stink. You're going to be drinking. I'm buying you a bottle of scotch tonight before we even talk further about this project, and that bottle of scotch is going to be gone while we're on this project. You're going to hate me. I don't care about CSAT. I'm going to piss you off. End of story. You're going to hate me, but we're going to get this project done. It'll be done in 6 weeks, and I'm going to charge you $72,000. And I lied. So if you add up all these hours and figure it out, we went about a week over. But we still came in at $72,000, and John kept his job and was happy. Again, silver lining planning, identity, and migration became pilot, deploy, and enhance. And this has more recently undergone some more changes. You can go out to the fasttrack.office.com site. Now it actually will resolve to deploy.office365.com, another great move. But all of these things are included in there, and you will see what's going on. The other really good news here, so I don't know how many of you have supported a customer with multiple Active Directory for us in the past. So how'd that go? Yeah. You told them to consolidate, and they said, well, then come back in 5 years. And then then we said, hey, we've got a tool for FIM, but it's a Microsoft consultancy, it's a MCS engagement only. And then, of course, we subbed it out to Oxford, and they came in and did a great job. But then you were going, well, what the hell am I here for? Honest. I'm being honest. I'm open and honest and transparent, and that kind of sucks. So now we have Azure Active Directory Sync. Now, as of last week, it shipped. It's GA. So now you can do multi-forest synchronization to the cloud. And even before then, I did have a couple of customers with multiple forests, and they were fine with synchronizing those multiple forests to different tenants. Up until about 6 months ago, we couldn't do that with DirSync. DirSync is what you use to synchronize your directory. That's why it's called DirSync. It synchronizes your directory. See how clever we are? So pretty cool. But you could only install one DirSync behind your firewall. Then we changed that so you can install multiple DirSyncs. And in a couple of cases, customers were like, yeah, these people are in separate forests because we want them in separate forests. And it's like, that's easy. We'll just put in 2 copies of DirSync, and we'll synchronize them to separate tenants. Boom, I'm out. Again, I love that. So that's kind of cool. But now we have Azure Active Directory, and you will see some things in a single sign-on world. And if you haven't seen this, this is what it looks like at Microsoft. I go to sign into portal.microsoftonline.com, or it's also login.microsoftonline.com. I always tell people login.microsoftonline.com. It's a hell of a lot easier to remember. What are you trying to do? I'm trying to log in. I'm not trying to portal. Well, I'm trying to log in. So go to login.microsoftonline.com. Yeah, well, portal. What? I don't want a portal. I want to log in. And then here, we go out to our STS, Secure Token site, And then it says, hey, you can sign in. It's got this very goofy looking, like a younger version of that Gerard Depardieu dude. I think that's how you say his name. And you can sign in, or we can insert our smart card, because why? This is a web app, right? So web app does understand when a smart card's inserted. Rich application, WS Trust, not so much. Good? Everybody following along? How about those of you playing at home? Hopefully thumbs up. Azure domain, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, this is all good. And custom domains, yep, absolutely, we can do that. What is that? Yeah, kind of, sort of. You better get it right, man. Saying, is that a trick question? That is an email address. What else is it? There's a login. What else is it? UPN. What else is it? SIP address. Yes, it's all of these things. It's my org ID. It's my SIP address. It's my username, my user principal name. It's all of those things. Your user principal name. You used to have your UPN. And how many of you went out to a company and they say, oh, no, we had a spear phishing thing. We had some kind of incident, so we don't use our UPN. We use Tom at bobcat.local or Tom at company local. Tom local. So there were a couple, Optimal IDM. Anybody ever hear of those fellers? Optimal IDM, one of our first identity federation partners. They did this little orchestration thing that would say Tom at Bobcat equals Tom at Microsoft.com. So then you could say, yeah, keep that there. But now we also have an alternate identity, and you can read about that at alternate, if you just type in your search provider of choice, alternate identity, Office 365 TechNet will get you there. So UPN suffix, all of these things that used to be true, pretty much no longer true. DirSync. How many of you are very familiar with this and just wish I would shut up? All right, none of you. Good, good. See, that was a trick question. And you got that one right, so I'm only. Mm-hmm. All right. So Active Directory. Active Directory stores your users and your groups of your users, and your problem is that you've got this firewall between you and the cloud, and you have this Azure Active Directory, and you need to get those users and groups up there. So we do this, and I call this, as to not be creepy or frightening to customers, a DirSync appliance. If you don't call it a DirSync appliance or an active Azure Active Directory synchronization appliance, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Appliance, simple, easy. My 13-year-old can run that. Oh, we got to set up DirSync on a Windows 2008 or 2012. It's a DirSync appliance. Give me a VM with Windows on. I had a customer. He went off. His bride was going off to Iraq to fight for this country. Bless her soul. He went to see her off and went to the UK. We had set up all this stuff in his absence. He came back, and all of a sudden, we were getting DirSync errors like crazy. And then we were getting ADFS errors like crazy. And people weren't able to log in. And I'm like, what the hell? And we troubleshot and troubleshot and troubleshot. He came back from his vacation, didn't know what these virtual machines were in his environment, and threw them away. Now you go, but DirSync, we had done a snap, and we had daily backups, so we just mounted a backup, right, and then ran it again. DirSync errors went away. ADFS, a little bit more complex, but not much. So this DirSync appliance is going to run every 3 hours, and it's going to synchronize those users and groups and put them up in the cloud. You could hardly tell that this was a slide from 2007-8, could you? But it is, because that's how good the graphics looked in 2007/8. So this is kind of cool. And then what did we add to this DirSync appliance? People wanted single sign-on, but they didn't want the hassle of Active Directory Federation services. So what did we add to this? What? Say it again. What? Does it synchronize passwords? It takes your users' passwords and puts them up in the cloud? Are you high, Robert? What is this called? It's hash sync. So everybody in this room from now on is going to call this what sync? What? God bless America. I don't think you guys are trainable. Hash sync. Hash sync. We don't synchronize passwords. We synchronize hashes. And then you know what? There's these really nefarious bad dudes in places like Brazil and the Baltic again, where they're getting paid $1 a week. Nobody wants to move to the Baltic. And what they're trying to do is a reverse hash lookup. Remember reverse phone numbers? You could type in somebody's phone number and then find their address and then go stalk them. I wouldn't recommend that. And I never did that either. I was a stalker, but it was at the Ben Franklin, and that was when the shelf would get empty. You'd put new stuff on the shelf, and that was called a stalker. S-T-O-C-K-E-R, not S-T-A-L-K-E-R. One, you go to jail. The other one, you get a paycheck. Okay, kind of a cool thing. Hash sync, we synchronize that hash every 2 minutes. We synchronize the users every 3 hours. And you can force a sync of users if somebody important comes or leaves, is getting forced out of your company. Cool. Good? And these reverse lookups, the reason why they don't work, take a gander. Why? Yes? Because we change that hash every couple of minutes. Good? You were only paying half attention. That's why you guessed 1 minute instead of 2. But thank you. So yeah, these things, make sure the forest, and there's questionable names. All of this stuff that used to take hours and weeks to do is now a tool called IDFix. IDFix you can run. It will point out all the issues, and it has a fix-it button, and more important, we put an undo button on it. IDFix will get your Active Directory in good enough shape to sync. Yeah, how many of you installed DirSync in the old days, or were with a consultant who did? Errors. What errors did you see? What was the most common error? 5, 9, 25. Any of these were the most common errors. And they were illegal character, an orphan ID, maybe a period before the @ symbol. These were all the low things. IDFix will not only find those things, but will fix them. When do you need full SQL? Lots of users. And these aren't users, these are objects. And I've had every customer in the world, we used to have the DRT, Deployment Readiness Tool. You'd run that tool, it would tell you how many objects were in their directory. Every customer, and they weren't purposely lying, they weren't stupid, they just didn't know. They would think, oh, yeah, we've got 18,000 users, so there's 18,000 objects in there. Oh, yeah, in the old days, this was a big stickler because we couldn't DirSync more than 20,000 objects, and then went to 25, and then went to 50, and 100, and then 500. And you have to, above 100,000, you have to ask for an XL tenant. It's a service request. Above 500,000, an XXL, because our product manager came from Fruit of the Loom. XL and XXL. That was a joke, and it was a pretty good one, judging by the laughter. So at about 50,000 or more, we're going to go to a full SQL. That's why it says full SQL required, yes. SQL Express, full SQL, and these are objects, not users. So they had 18,000 users. They had about 100,000. It's usually 2.5 to 4 times your number of users is the number of objects that you'll have, rough math, back of the napkin. But here, they neglected to tell us that they had 25,000 part-time employees, contract employees, that while they were disabled, they weren't deleted. And you know what? Disabled counts. So just, they weren't lying. They weren't stupid. They were just wrong. Directory sync is typically a one-way push, can be bidirectional, especially if you're going to move users and do hybrid, where you're going to move folks to the cloud and move people back. In the old days, we couldn't filter. We couldn't selectively choose which objects we move. Now we can. Okay, so we can say we just want this OU, this group, these people to synchronize, and we only want these objects to go. I just had a company, and this always is a pet peeve of mine. They said, well, we can't go to the cloud. Moving to the cloud and putting our users in your Azure Active Directory in the cloud doubles our attack area. Really? We put 39 objects in the cloud. I got 19 of those objects in your signature file on your flipping email, right? First name, last name, address, email. It's all right there. I could keep counting, but I don't need to. Phone number, fax. I don't know if anybody has a fax anymore. But all that stuff is there, right? So you better tell your users to stop sending email. Okay, that was supposed to be funny. It wasn't, so I'm moving on. All right. Options, DirSync. PowerShell. You could do poor man's DirSync. I used to do a lot of that in the old days. 4 clicks to install, 4 clicks to install, 12 clicks to configure, 2 credentials running, and those credentials are deleted after the first run. If you've run DRT and ID fix, that's often all there is to it. So if you're going out with a little toolbox of USB stick with things like ID fix and DRT on it, you're asking for trouble. You need an old copy of DRT because Microsoft pulled that back, but there were still some benefits to the old DRT. And then that talked about the fact that write-back mode has to be of the messaging attributes in the cloud. Recipient type, another good gotcha. These guys said, man, our synchronization hasn't finished, and we're out of licenses. Their conference rooms, gear, stuff were not, the recipient types were not conference rooms. So it put all their conference rooms in as users. Okay, so there's some little gotchas out there, but I think pretty easy to find those these days. Soft match, yeah, synchronized hash, we talked about hashing. So again, we never know the clear text password. But these are things that come out all the time when you're doing these things. So have this slide or these slides. We used to do this thing called a Solution Alignment Workshop, a SAW, Solution Alignment Workshop, familiar? Anybody do SAWs? I used to charge for SAWs. It was a 2-week engagement to do that. And then that became Silver Lining Planning Services. But a SAW was, here are all these questions that you need to ask. And then the output of all the answers went into what I called a run book when I was one of you guys. And then I had a run book, and I would sell that run book to the customer. Here's everything you need to know to migrate from premise to the cloud. And it's called a run book. And I think CA, IBM, a couple other companies use the term run book. We call it a deployment plan. You can go out to fasttrack.office.com today, and we've got a simple deployment plan and a complex deployment plan. Now you're taking notes. Like nothing I've said until now has been important. What the hell? So you can go out to FastTrack and get the deployment plan, and there's a simple and a complex one out there for you. Synchronizing groups, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Read it later. Advanced DirSync, changing the frequency. Nope. Multiple forests. Can you do that? Can we synchronize 2 forests to the same tenant? Please, God, say no. That's right. No, it's the correct answer. So we can have 2 DirSyncs, and we can have 2 DirSyncs synced to 2 tenants, but we can't have 2 DirSyncs synced to a tenant. We can with Azure Active Directory sync, not with DirSync. This slide didn't know about Azure Active Directory synchronization because it didn't exist when this slide was created. So with Azure Active Directory synchronization, can we synchronize 2 forests to the same tenant? This is awesome. You guys are going to pass your certification. This is fantastic. It is. It's a lot like that, especially from where I sit. That was a not-so-subtle slam. All right, 1 allowance per tenant. If the customer has more than 1 forest, FIM, the FIM connector, and look at even here, somebody went out and updated this slide to say Azure Active Directory DirSync now. Oh, what a smart human being that guy is. Pretentious? Moi? That's the shortest joke in the English language, and French and English. Pretentious? Moi? You'll laugh at that tomorrow. All right. Using FIM, you have to call Microsoft. We never did release this to partners, so that whole AND partner should have a strike through it, and I apologize for that. It wasn't my fault, but it was somebody's fault, and I might have had an opportunity to influence that, and I didn't do a good job, so I apologize. DirSync, synchronize the users, blah, blah, blah. Now we're going to set up single sign-on. So what do we need for single sign-on? Answers on the board. Yep. In Australian, it sounds a lot like IDFS, but he's really saying ADFS. And when I was in Barcelona, and she goes, you need to go to gate A. And I said, are you saying gate A or A? A or A? A? Because their alphabet's 1 letter off, right? A, E is A, I is E. See how I'm doing this? It's one off. You have to remember, it in your head. She also gave me this thing that said, here's a little placard. She gave me this little placard. This is a visual joke. And it said, it was bigger than this. Carry this with you at all times so you're identified as one of our very best customers. That's what you get when you're flying first class across the pond. And I went, but it stuck. It stuck to my head. And she laughed and then went and got the other gate agents to come over and laugh along with me. Now, the funny part of this story is I was in the club having a few drinks before getting on the plane. And then when you have drinks, you have to go to the bathroom. And I was in the bathroom, and I looked over, and it was the drummer from the Cars. Cars was a group in the United States. And I'm like, wow, you're the drummer from the Cars. Don't mean to talk to you while you're urinating and stuff. Not looking. And he's like, yeah, I am. And I was like, cool. And then I walked out, and there's Rick Ocasek sitting there. And I was like, hey, it's got to be kind of cool in Spain. Like, you're not getting harassed for autographs or bugged by, like, people like you would in America. Well, except for me. I'm kind of bugging. So I'm not asking for autographs. And then he's like, yeah. And then he was like, you know, talking to me and stuff. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And so we're talking, and I said, I know you probably won't remember this, but I used to work in California, and I was at Pebble Beach, and I was sitting at a table having lunch, and you got in a big fight with your girlfriend, and she was, like, super attractive. She was, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, 6 million. And she threw a glass of water on you, and then the manager came over, and he goes, I kind of do remember that. And then I said, then the manager came over and said, Mr. Ocasek, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And you're bothering all the other customers. And then I said, it's not bothering me at all. He can stay, and she can stay. She could sit at my table if she either. And it was kind of awesome. And then he goes, I totally remember that now. And then I said, hey, we're getting along pretty well. Where are you sitting? And then he was like, I'm in 23F. You know, I'm like, dude, the Cars are in coach. And that was kind of a little bit upsetting, but what's awesome is he came on, and now I'm going to say this in a quote because this is what I said, and it was like him, and if you've seen the guitarist, and I can never remember his name, but it's like David Grant. He's not a guitarist, I mean a drummer's name, you know, like Chuck, I don't know. And so he got on, and I said, yeah, move on back, bitch, because I was in first, and he was in coach. And then I Facebooked, the Cars just got on my airplane. And I thought that was like Facebook post of the year. The Cars just got on my airplane. Okay, you guys don't like it either. But I thought it was awesome. So this is how we deployed ADFS for Rick Ocasek in the Cars. We put a load balancer in there if they're a large customer. If they aren't, you're always going to deploy ADFS in what? In what? In what? Enterprise mode. You are going to do it in cluster, so that requires ADFS being deployed in enterprise. So we're going to put enterprise mode in, and because we have to have ADFS proxied and ADFS behind the firewall, we put certs in between there. This used to be 128 PowerShell commandlets, and most of them were paragraph. And if you did this in the early days, how many of you guys did like 2010 ADFS? Anybody? Or new people who did? Yeah, it was carpal tunnel, man. It sucked. So now it's pretty simple, a lot easier, and just like hybrid, all wizards. So somebody's out there on the internet, they want to get a website or email from the cloud, they come in, they hit ADFS, and the load balancer, close enough. We're going to punch through the firewall, get to ADFS. It's going to get to Active Directory. This is oversimplified. It's actually like 17 steps. And I've got that in these, or at least the slides I'm giving you. Active Directory is going to go, yep, this person's good. They're an active user. Here's a token. That's going to come back through, go to the cloud, and then that web page or content's going to be delivered to the client. Cool? Yep. Yeah, you know, 10,000 or more. Yeah, and people who are banging away outside. So yeah, you're right. For most folks in here, you're still going to have 2 You're going to have an ADFS server here, an ADFS server here. And again, when this guy returned from the UK and deleted everything, we just went and stood these back up, and bam, we're up and going, right? So I worked with Best Buy. Best Buy actually has 3 ADFS farms, 9 servers each farm, 27 servers just for ADFS. So full-time equivalents that manage that server, 0.2. 2/10 of a human being to manage that environment. So if you get pushback from a large customer, if you're talking to large customers and they go, oh, that's too much infrastructure, it's going to cost too much, A, you can backstep to Azure Active Directory Premium and put all that stuff in the cloud and forget about it. Or you can go to a third-party partner like Okta who runs all this stuff in the cloud too. Yep, perfect. And then, you know what often comes up is people go, well, we don't put people in AD. We have an ERP or some, you know, like SAP or Dynamics, a great solution. And then there's some system and all this stuff, and then that populates people. I always draw a big fat red line right here and go, anything you do today, and this is, we're going to rehearse this together. How do you do that today? Say it now with me. How do you do that today? And then they're going to go blah, 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 and you're on a mental vacation, and then you're going to say, that's how you do it tomorrow. Ready? That's how you'll do it tomorrow. Very good. You're all passed. So hey, we create our users. How do you do that today? Oh, we use SAP, blah, blah. That's how you'll do it tomorrow. Just wake up at the end and then go, that's how you'll do it tomorrow. Good? Oh, but we use this Vontu thing on premise, and all of our email goes through their DLP and blah, blah, blah. That's how you do it today? Yes. God bless you all and everyone, says Tiny Tim. Yes, no idiot left behind. Does SSO Federation equal SSO? Yes, but Federation also equals a bunch of other junk too, like Link Federation and Calendar Federation and this Federation and that Federation. But in this case, and I was at this partnering, like, one of the guys in the room was like, I'm like, we don't have a lot of people who do ADFS Federation. He's like, Federation is easy. It's a radio button. And I'm like, oh, my God, you're talking about Link Federation. I'm talking about Identity Federation. Yeah, Link Federation is a radio button. Identity Federation, a little bit more complicated. So, again, all these slides are there for you. And you can see all this great stuff and how it all works. And then here's your load balancers. And I made some nice little animations and blah, blah, blah. And WSFed for your Windows browser apps, blah, blah, blah. Trust for your rich clients. And we've got that app password, which I showed you before. Topologies, multiple force. God, I put a lot of stuff in here. These guys and gals are all, they were in this program called Works With Office 365, and then we threw away the Works With program. But these are all folks that you can use for providing single sign-on to Office 365. There are a couple of people here. I used to love Ping, and they were at the top of the list mostly because there was a Ping Federate deployment guide. The writer of that deployment guide was awesome, but then they revved that guide and then took my name off of it. So I don't like them as much as I used to. Okta is great, and then what's kind of cool about Okta is they have a DirSync, kind of what we do with Azure Active Directory. You'll probably never hear another Microsoft employee back these other folks here. But you come to a company, and the company says, well, we're already using Okta, and we've got 51 solutions like Salesforce and this force and that force and these other things. You're not going to rip that out and put in ADFS, and no amount of selling in the world is going to do that. So just go, how do you do that today? Well, we use Okta. Beautiful. Yes, sir. Yep. Nope. Yep. And I already showed you this, and again, these slides are in here, but MFA is good, and this app password is the thing for using smart card sign-in. Oh, this is good. So claims-based access, so a lot of customers would say, I only want my users to log in when they're on their corporate device, right? The easiest way to do that is by making sure that they're VPN'd in or direct access in, because then they get an IP from the from DHCP behind the firewall, and we can say good. One customer that I was working with, they said we only want, because they were sued, we only want people to check their email when they are on the clock. They can't check the mail when they're not in the clock. They were using Kronos as their time card solution, so we connected ADFS claims-based up to their time card. So if I'm on break at this retailer that has some really good buys, you might actually call them, and I'm on break waiting for my girlfriend to get off work. Don't tell my wife I got a girlfriend who works at Best Buy. And I'm in the break room, I'm off the clock, I can't check email, right? So it's kind of cool, the flexibility that you have with ADFS. Now, these are benefits that ADFS does that Ping and those other solutions generally don't offer. Is the situation IP-based, claims-based, time card integration-based. The other thing that ADFS offers that those other solutions don't. Now, Ping's gotten a little bit better and Okta's gotten a little bit better on reporting, but reporting. And you don't have to be an enterprise admin to get to those reports. All you need to be is an ADFS admin to get to those reports. Cool? So you can see when somebody logged in and then compare it to SharePoint logs and look at what did they do while they were in. Rich coexistence. How many of you attended the rich coexistence session today? There was one, right? And nobody, everybody. Good. Terrible. So you've got your Exchange servers, and maybe you've got a couple of Exchange servers. And so you've got this Exchange Minneapolis, Exchange Chicago, and you've got CAS hub servers. Every customer in the world has a client access server. It might not be 2013, could be 2010. We're going to take that client access server and we're going to upgrade it to either 2013 Critical Update 2 as a minimum, or we're going to upgrade it to 2010 SP3. All right, so that's the first thing we do, and both of those upgrades will require some Active Directory schema updates. So that this gets a little bit sneaky, tricky, but just know that that happens. So we upgrade that CAS server. That CAS server is talking to the Exchange servers. We punch that through the firewall and talk to our Exchange in the cloud. Now, here's Tom's little tip from Tom. I always call this cloud. I always call these prem. If I'm moving somebody from Chicago to this tenant, I don't want tenant blah, 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 blah name in here. I want it to say prem and cloud. So I move John. I click on John's name, and I actually right-click on John's name, and I say move him to, and it says where, and I put cloud. And if I get hit by a bus or win the lotto, and I'm like, I'm out one more time, any idiot can come in there and go, oh, these are our premise mailboxes. These are our cloud mailboxes. And the knuckleheads here at Microsoft, in the old days, you had to rebuild the OST and all this other junk. You can move somebody while they're in Outlook, provided it's Outlook 2010 or higher, and the only thing they're going to have to do is restart Outlook. They won't know that they've been moved. My mailbox has moved from prem to cloud, cloud to prem, prem to cloud a dozen times in the last couple of weeks because they moved me back to a beta server, and then I complain, and then they move me back to the cloud. And then somebody goes, oh, well, he's in North America domain. We should move him down to a dog food server. And then they move me down, and then I complain. They move me back up. No disruption. I can be sending and receiving email while they move me. It's kind of cool. Instead of before, we used to use like Binary Tree had a really cool tool that would actually show you when you were going to move and estimate it and send an email alert to you that your email was going to be down between 2:15 and 3:15. Kind of a cool thing. No longer needed. Rich coexistence. The cool thing about rich coexistence, and these are 2009 slides, is that it does give you all these additional things. And this is Exchange. Exchange Federation is I can share my calendar with you. You can see my free busy. If we agree to Calendar Federation, Exchange Federation, you see my calendar, I see your calendar as if we work for the same company. Groovy? So again, apologize that we've used the words federation too much. Free busy. If, you know, and this is kind of how I sell against Google too, is I say, gosh, if you've got people who are on premise and you've got people who are in the cloud, you're never going to see their free busy time because they're in Google, right? So I can't see that free busy time. But in rich coexistence, I'm totally going to see that free busy time. It's going to look like we're in the same company. So busy request, again, these are really old, but I spent a lot of time on these animations, so I'm going to use these until the day I die. Maybe even in the hospital, on my deathbed, I'm going to request a projector get wheeled in, and I'm going to show these slides. So this hits the CAS server, finds Joe's mailbox. He's at Joe's out in the cloud. It returns Joe's information, says, hey, and that Federation client, the Microsoft Federation Gateway, a big fancy name. We scared the hell out of people. That's really just a. Remember back a couple of pictures ago, I had Exchange Org A, Exchange Org B, and then I had our hybrid server, right, CAD server. So free busy information is returned, and woohoo, I go, oh, Joe's busy. Isn't that nice? Mail tips. So having a mail tip, remember Chris Kunze is a very busy guy, allow 2 days. If you've got people up in the Google Cloud or people without rich coexistence, it's going to go, oh, Sally's outside of your organization. And then they're going to go, oh, Sally, did you quit? I didn't know you quit. And she's like, yeah, I didn't quit. I'm still here. And then everybody's confused. And then Sally's calling IT. How come people are asking me if I quit? I didn't quit. I'm still here. Am I getting paid? Where's my paycheck? Did I get fired? I don't know. So with coexistence, aren't you part of our org? Hell yeah, I'm part of the org. I'm right here. I didn't go anywhere. And then also there's some gal issues and things. So hybrid is awesome, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Cross-premise mail search. So now what's kind of cool, remember, oh, we use Ubuntu for DLP. What are we going to do if we move to Office 365? Same damn thing you did yesterday, right? So it's kind of cool just doing this search. I'm going to do the search on-premise. If I'm on Google in the cloud or something else in the cloud, it's going to say, I don't know. I handed that message off to some external mail server. I don't know where it went. We're using hybrid. It's going to go, it went here, it went here, it went here. And these are the times that it hit these hops. And here's where it slowed down. So you'll have all of this stuff. And you'll do that from your on-premise management console. OA redirect. So the cool thing here is you can still use mail.microsoft.com, right, or mail.foo.com. You can use whatever you're using today because where is this? Where's this web page? Where's this getting sent from? We said it just a second ago, people. You're starting to piss me off now. There's Exchange Org A, Exchange Org B, and then down here there was a server with 3 letters on it, CAS. So, right, so that's what's generating that. Boom. Cross-premise mail flow. Again, very old chart, but there's some animation here. So transport layer security. Always, always, always. Everything is TLS. So the customer goes, well, I don't want somebody sniffing my pipe, and I don't want somebody sniffing my pipe either. But they might go, hey, somebody might sniff my pipe and catch a bunch of my emails while it's in transport to the cloud. It's all going to be transport layer secured. So again, it's secure, and then this little email gets sent from Ben. It hits Ben's mailbox, goes to the CAS hub in 2010, CAS server in 2013, goes out to the forefront protection. It goes, no, this is cool. It's not a spoof. This is really from Ben. Because right, Ben's at benfoo.com and Joe's at joefoo.com, but we're going through internet transport, right? So normally we'd see that as a spoof, right? And go, no, this isn't good. But we put the forwarders and everything in place, and we know what's going on. So we go, no, this is cool. Send it to Joe. And Joe's going, woohoo, I got another email from Ben today. I love it when he sends me email messages. And then same way here, it's going to come down, and then we're going to get it on-premise, and then it'll go to Ben. And Ben's like, woohoo, Joe, answer me back. He must still love me. This is awesome. I'm so happy I've got a friend like Joe. And then everybody's happy, and they do the little happy dance, and then life is good. And then there were some more slides. Boom. I think we're done. I'm going to stop right here and say this is what's awesome about rich coexistence. In the remaining 6 minutes, what kind of questions do you guys have? We could actually, have taken an Exchange server and done hybrid and hooked up DirSync and done all that stuff in this amount of time, but nothing really? You guys aren't going, man, I had these 2 questions all day long, and now I don't know what I was going to ask. Really? Nothing? How about online? Is everybody dead in the rest of the world? I can answer anything.
What's Microsoft's guidance for small businesses? Because implementing an ADFS environment is fair expensive.
Yeah, you know, so again, you can still virtualize ADFS or IDFS. You can still virtualize that, and I know you are. Kind of. Damn Kiwis. Go All Blacks. So virtualize that, right? So spin up a VM, whatever that's going to cost you. It's pretty simple. You might, in most small companies, when we introduced hash sync, so this is a great place for hash sync. So you run DirSync, and then it's a checkbox to say, yes, I also want to synchronize our password hash. Does it give you a true single sign-on experience? No, but it gives you a sign-in experience, which should be pleasurable.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that Microsoft's preference is to move towards DirSync rather than ADFS.
For a smaller company, yeah. And then, you know, you might say that's true of like rich coexistence, but I had a company of 5 people, and I still deployed rich coexistence. I always told companies, I'm not going to move you without rich coexistence in place. Because you never know how long. Like they moved their couple of employees, even with 5 people, up to the cloud, but their CEO and CFO combination, COO, stayed on premise for like a year. So.
The big downside for a small business generally is the fact that they're running their broadband connection at the minimum cost that they can afford, and that means that their Active Directory, their single point of identity, they lose that connection.
Nobody goes. Yep. Very true. All good stuff. I can see why you're an MVP. It's all good stuff. And this is why yet another strategic consulting service for you to think about is bandwidth, doing network bandwidth assessments. And that is another yet good way for you to get into some of that strategic consulting. Good. What else? Who's not going to use their pizza pass that I can steal? I'm just kidding. What? Again, I'm pmoen@microsoft.com. So if you're too bashful to speak now but want to send me an email later, I'm pmoen@microsoft.com. My second boss at Microsoft. I used to tour around and do a lot of speaking stuff with Apple, and I never thought of it. I had, you know, tmoen@applelink.com, and then it was tmoen@apple.com. And I never really thought of this, but my boss at Microsoft, and here's a funny story too. I'll tell you a couple of funny stories in the remaining couple of minutes, and we can turn off. The people at home can just go have dinner with their kids or whatever.